Welcome to our Mind the Moments Tuesday morning gathering, brought to you by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. As you all know, if you've joined us a number of times, this is a place where we invite experienced mindfulness practitioners to speak with us about what mindfulness means to them. And then as a community, we can process how we can incorporate these practices into our daily lives. I'm Suzanne Rowe, Palacino, and always delighted to have Rebecca Wing with us here, licensed clinical professional counselor, mindfulness instructor, and longtime meditator.
Good morning.
Rebecca.
Good to be with all of you.
So nice to have you here this morning with us.
Yes.
And welcome to anybody that's new with us. We're so happy to have you here. And just to give you a guide on how we usually work this morning in the mornings on Tuesdays, we'll start off with a question. Rebecca will pose a question to the community, and then she'll share some thoughts with us or go into the guided practice. And at some point or another, we'll have some time for chatting and questions and answers. So if you go to the bottom of your screen, click on the chat, and that'll give you the option to click that drop-down menu. And that can say either hosts and panelists, or you can click on everyone. And then you can see everybody's questions coming in as they come in. If you have anything that comes up for you right away, just anything related to general practice, that's why we're here. So just go ahead and type that in, and we can get to it whenever we get to the question and answer time. So Rebecca, what question do you want to start us off with this morning?
Yeah, so this is kind of a broad sweeping question in terms of mindfulness in general. What are some of the obstacles that come up that make it difficult to be in the present moment throughout your day? So what are the obstacles of present moment awareness during the day, not when you're meditating, but literally living the rest of your life? And one of the biggest things we can recognize right now, I think, and for so many of us, there's oftentimes a sense of needing to push and move through the day in a very aggressive, or I don't know if that's the right word, assertive way, I suppose. And so when you think about, well, what is it that makes it harder to slow down just for a little bit and allow ourselves to just drop into something as simple as feeling a cup in our hands? Why is that so difficult? What are the obstacles? So it'd be interesting to hear for those of you. Yeah, right, Tammy, being overscheduled. And, the challenging thing about the scheduled piece is how, who's scheduling us? And this is the hardest part that we deal with is, am I feeling like I have to overschedule, or someone else telling me that? Worry about the future. Yeah, in the past, exactly. So these states of not being present and telling stories and rehearsing, fear about the future, multitask. Yeah, for sure. Quantity, not quality. One of the saddest realizations of anybody who's working, of realizing, am I foregoing what I know, what I'd like to do and how I'd like to work versus what I feel like I'm supposed to do time-wise. So let's do this. Let's sort of drop into, yeah, Lee, good point. Guilt of thinking of me first. So here's an opportunity to think of you first right now. We're going to be doing a practice that sort of drops into making room for whatever it is that you're noticing right now. And we'll do about a 12-minute practice. So find a way to get comfortable in your chair. You want to see if your back can be as aligned as possible, so that you're upright and also at ease. Bring a quality of dignity to your posture. And think of it as bringing your best self to this moment with kindness and curiosity. And I'm going to ask you to first get very curious about whatever sensations you're feeling in the body right now. Areas of discomfort of any kind. And if you find somewhere in the body that is broadcasting some form of discomfort, really see if you can get present with the sensation. Where is it? How does it feel? The quality of it, tightness, burning, achiness, tiredness. Just allow the mind to settle into the sensation without commentary, just noticing. And if you found an area, see if there's an accompanying emotion that goes with that sensation. It could be anything from feeling a bit anxious, worried, sadness, a feeling of feeling unsettled or disconnected. If you have an accompanying emotion with this bodily sensation, name it to yourself. This feeling is what? And we're going to explore the skill of non-commentary here, staying with the basic ground of physical and emotional experience. And how we do that is by bringing a quality of loving kindness to the experience. Settle in and simply be with the sensation and the emotion. Gentle awareness. Find your breath. Imagine breathing with kindness as you hold space for the emotion and the sensation. Settle into breath. Notice the mind wanting to know why I feel this way. Do the best you can to drop the commentary when it comes up. Back to the breath, gentle awareness of sensation and emotion. Next part of this practice is to become aware of the rest of the body. First, by noticing your hands, sense a sense of calm in the hands as they rest, recognizing that your hands are at rest. As you sit breathing, gentle awareness of your hands. Or inviting that calm quality into your forearms, the upper arms, and the shoulders. Continue to explore loving kindness in the presence of emotion, body, breath, resting in that awareness. Mind wanders far away. Gather the awareness back to the hands. Try again. Gather awareness of breath, gentle awareness of hands. We move towards the end of the practice. You can drop the form of it entirely. Let the mind do whatever it wants. And just allow yourself to rest. It's not really doing much of anything. Just giving yourself permission for a few moments of resting. So give yourself time as we end the practice. You can think of the depth of drawing in a deeper breath as a real helpful way of reanimating, moving the hands and feet. A stretch is always very helpful at the end of meditation practice as we end the practice itself.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Pleasure. You know, I think one of the biggest challenges around all of these practices is that sometimes it's very difficult to be with discomfort. And I think it's important to sort of acknowledge that because of that difficulty being with discomfort, we tend to run from mindfulness because the internal churning of the interior body and emotional state feels a little bit too risky or fragile or vulnerable, or it feels that it's that there's no time to attend and be aware. And I think one of the things that I've learned as a mental health provider, because I'm a counselor as well as a meditation practitioner and teacher, is that the more familiar and the more able we are to be with emotion in its rawest state and recognize how it feels in the body, it allows us to sort of open up to being able to tolerate the emotion without adding a story to it. And what I've recognized over and over again in my own clients is that the reason they suffer is not so much that they feel emotion, is that they're always trying to figure out why they feel the emotion. And that actually adds layers of story and worry and fret about it versus exploring, well, where is it in my body? What am I noticing in my body? And is there an emotion that I could really get pinpoint and name? You know, what is the actual emotion? Because there's so many different forms of emotion. So then that loving awareness of the emotion and the body itself through the breath, it just gives you your nervous system some time to feel like it's being paid attention to. And so oftentimes we talk about this pause practice during the day where just noticing the hands and taking 3 mindful breaths so that there's a dropping into whatever it is I'm experiencing in this moment. And I love noticing the hands because most of the time, when we drop our hands and just focus on them, they're resting. And so it's a nice sort of gateway into noticing just those 3 mindful breaths. So that's the short form practice of pause practice. I had a client say, do you mean pause, P-A-W-S? So notice your pause. Said, well, that's an interesting way of thinking of it, but no, P-A-U-S-E, but that's okay. Either way, it makes sense. But the longer practice, what we did at the beginning of the meditation, is more of a being with the emotion, really actually practicing being with it, with that gentleness. So that's a little bit of a longer process, and you really better to be alone time and have your own space. So pause practice throughout the day. If you can do it 2, 3, 4 times, beautiful. Dropping awareness into the hands and just 3 mindful breaths of what you're noticing versus actually getting better at being with the emotion. Yeah, nice to know, JG. Practice has helped you pause and notice and to move away from what I didn't see the bottom of it, from the story. Yeah, because the story and the worry is not actually what the feeling is. It's a story about the feeling. Yeah.
Also, I think this is such an important practice right now. You and I were speaking together about this time, that this time has been a time of a little bit of reopening and people are maybe starting to jump into a certain level of activity that they had prior to the last couple of years. But then the unsettledness of world events. So the timing is very important.
Especially there's so many different kinds of emotions: hope, aspiration, worry, sorrow, grief, right? All of these different sort of almost extremes oftentimes. Yeah.
And Keith has brought up, and this is a really great thing to dig into, is his feeling was lack of belief in the worth of being in the present moment.
Yeah. And I think that counter belief of recognizing the worth of the present moment is achieved through practice. I mean, noticing how you felt before when you first logged on to join this meditation and how you feel now. You can start to sort of notice, and it doesn't necessarily mean that every time you're going to feel 100% better, but it's sort of like just getting curious about, sorry, I'm plugging in my computer, getting curious about the sensation of before and after. Because even if it's not like a perfect meditation or you're really doing a lot of wandering and suffering states, even in that last few moments, the 12-minute mark is so lovely, because there's, at the time, if you give yourself that permission to just relax and rest, even if it's 30 seconds, it gives ourselves a different feeling than when we started the meditation practice. So yeah, I mean, there's really no way to believe in the worth of anything unless you actually practice it enough to have sort of like enough experiences that you can chain them together and realize, I actually think that it actually is helping me. And so I want to remember the value of this, the worth of dropping in. Yeah.
Yeah, very good point. And I also, when you've mentioned these practices and connecting, understanding the emotions that are underneath, but not following a story, it's helpful to me to as well understand that the emotion is not always the truth. That's not always, I mean, that when you're feeling what you're feeling, let's say I'm thinking about my arm and there's pain there. Is it going to be, I'm anxious about it. Is it going to be there forever? That's may not always be exactly the truth.
So the story isn't exactly the truth. The feeling of anxiety is true, right? I'm worried about, this is worry. This is worry. I sometimes like to use the word this is versus I am, because then it's sort of relating to an emotion from some less sticky place. I am worried. Does that mean I'm nothing else but worried? No. In this moment, I'm experiencing worry. This is worry. Okay, this is worry. Where do I feel that in my body? And so I think your point's a good one, of recognizing the difference between thinking the story about the worry is true versus just dropping into the truth of the foundation, the ground of the emotion itself. And they really are two different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And nothing actually, that was an example, Tawny, nothing actually occurred, but just an example of how, as Rebecca has mentioned, that sometimes we can think of these different pains as take that story beyond where it's helpful.
You can think of it as being like you have a newscaster in your head that's reporting on all the bad stuff that's happening, right? So if you watch enough news, you realize that most reporters are, reporting from a scene of disaster or talking about some form of disaster. And so they have this bias that they're telling the story of the thing that went wrong. And, the challenge with our own internal broadcaster is that it's doing the same thing. It's creating commentary. It's like you've got a MSNBC loop going on in your head. Oh, let's find out what the top of the hour, what's the breaking news, right? And recognizing that if we can get better at an absence of commentary, that really helps us not go into catastrophizing, future telling, regret about the future, because those states aren't present moment. They're storytelling and they're commentary. And it is a real opportunity, I think, as we gain more clarity about what it means to just simply sit and feel your hands and take 3 mindful breaths, to realize that there might be moments where there's an absence of commentary. And that ultimately is where the ground of mindful awareness is. It's where it lives. Yeah.
It's interesting, as a counselor that you've mentioned, I sometimes think about the fact that when you think about therapy or folks that might be in a counseling situation, sometimes one pictures that you have an emotion and maybe the counselor is going to want to dig into that emotion and see what's happening there, and how, maybe folks are confused. Why don't we do that in meditation?
Yeah. And they really are 2 different things.
Mm-hmm.
One is, when I work with clients, the first, series of sessions, we're working a little bit with childhood experience, recognizing what our core negative beliefs are about ourselves, recognizing habitual patterns, looking at the why and where it came from and how and when it shows up. So that's a form of personal growth work that's really in the psychological realm of digging into the foundation or the root of why we feel the way we feel. And then the mindfulness piece is sort of the counterbalance to that. So it is dropping into letting go of the commentary and being present with what's happening right now. So they're really not mutually exclusive. So I really encourage all of you, and I know this is sometimes hard to find because there aren't that many therapists who are taking clients, although I think it's loosening up now. I think we're not as overworked as we were during the heat of the pandemic. To if you have a sense of realizing that I have this one emotion that's constantly there, it seems very persistent, and I don't really know how to manage it, that would be a time to go see a therapist and say, I think I need to do some internal investigation of the why I feel this way, versus joining a meditation group or having your own meditation group, meditation practice.
Yeah, that's a great clarification. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, it's so nice to have you with us this morning, Rebecca.
My pleasure. Good to be with you all.
Yeah, and this practice is just, I think, just what folks could use as things start to change and evolve. It's sometimes difficult to find that pause time, but 1 to 3 minutes is not that much, not that much time to. Or 1 to 3, 3 breaths is not that much to dedicate to this. So,
and I would say just do it at a time when you are regularly doing something that you do normally every day. 3 mindful breaths when you're in the bathroom, 3 mindful breaths and noticing your hands every time you open your computer. Before that, right? Looking for where you can sort of stitch it into your day a little bit. Yeah,
I heard someone mention when they go through a door. Sometimes that can be something that reminds them, okay, maybe this is time for a mindful.
We used to say red lights, but no, not everybody's driving anymore. So
well, thank you so much, Rebecca. And thank you to everyone for joining this morning. What a really wonderful time to be together. So happy to have you. And I'll share the link as well to tomorrow, which is our Wednesday practice at 8:30. So, and if you want to just go ahead and click on that link, that will just open your browser and you can copy and paste it later. So thank you again, Rebecca, for.
You're welcome. So good to be with you all. And yes, indeed, have a mindful day.
Yeah, try those 3 breaths during the day. Right. See you soon.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.